All right, well, welcome back to part two of the E55 into E320 wagon project. I need a better name for that. So when we last left off, drivetrain was out of the E55, that's pushed outside. This is here. I've got everything disconnected: exhaust, drive shaft, cooling system, uh, power steering, AC, all that. And basically just a couple of bolts holding the engine in. I think I'm going to unbolt the torque converter while the car is in the air, because I'm going to probably separate the engine and trans before I stick them somewhere. Um, we've got another E320 wagon that has a bad torque converter, and this has got a good transmission. It's a 4MATIC. I don't know if it's the same, but maybe we can, at some point in time, get that car back on the road using parts from this one. But the goal, I got a few hours before a holiday party. It's December. It's cold in California for Northern California, 7 degrees Celsius according to my car. So that's like upper 40s. I know, not that cold compared to the rest of the world, but cold for us. But this should come out pretty easily. I've got a few hours to work. We'll maybe get this separated, and then I need to organize my parts and figure out. I was bagging stuff much more carefully on this car, because this one, the goal is to have one car go back together. Right now, I now have two cars that I've taken apart and made non-drivable. So hopefully we'll have one running at the end of this at least. And some other things. So the front bumper, I took off because, one, it'll make it easier to get access, but also this is some plastic replica made in China bumper. The car is original paint, but the front and rear bumpers have been replaced. I also noticed that the core support is kind of tweaked back a little bit, so this car kind of bumped up against something at some point. I bought the car from my friend. He had 4 boys. All 4 boys learned how to drive with this car, so it's probably seen its share of abuse. And I think I could probably just pull that out and straighten it, because that did come to mind. As I'm going to be putting the V8 in here, if the core support's pushed back, that's going to be a problem with the fan. And you can kind of see it's a little bit misaligned. The bumper looks okay. The frame rails look okay. It's just the core supports. I have a feeling they kind of crashed up against something like a big parking block or something and kind of pushed it up. It was never an issue with the V6 though. So, but that also explains maybe, well, that and the aftermarket bumper, the front bumper never fit very well, so maybe I can make that a little better. I think the E55 part is different also. I've got to look at them side by side. I don't know these cars that well, but it looks similar, but I have a feeling the E55 is subtly different, and I could get that one painted and put that back on because it's a factory Mercedes bumper, and this is really cheap feeling. So there we are for right now. I'll get this back on. I'm alone today, but I think I can still pull out the engine and trans. But I'll get some film of that, and we will kind of go from there. All right. All right, so torque converter is unbolted, trans is unbolted and being held in by a jack with a block of wood. Keep it in place, keep things level. Engine mounts are unbolted. I got a fuel line, the fuel line on top to unbolt. I left that last night because I had to click the ignition on to unlock the steering, to turn the wheels, to get to the wheel arch liners, to get the bumper off. So I figured it probably kicked on the fuel pump and pressurized the rail. So I'm probably gonna have some fuel leak out, but I thought it would be better today than yesterday. So we'll see what happens there. But we're kind of ready to pull the engine out, other than the fuel line, I think. And having done it on the other car so recently, I think I remember everything that I needed to do. So I've done a little bit of research on this swap since starting to take things apart. Engines coming out of a 2000, this is a 2002 model year. Different engine management. There's a changeover in 2001. So I need to find a V8 2001 or 2002 E430 to get the engine harness and the ECU and the throttle body to put on my E55 engine. There's one at a pick and pull about 80 miles away. I'm going to try to go there tomorrow, see if there's any luck there. Otherwise, I'm going to be searching for that, and that might be a holdup to getting it running. I'd rather do the harness before the engine goes in, just because everything is easy to get at. Then that ECU, this ECU will then go to the Mercedes swap shop, where they will program that ECU with E55 software and probably match it to the VIN of this car. So when I go to Smog, OBD plugs in and everything reads like it's supposed to, I think. The next question is the rear end. I've been watching a couple of other people who have done V8 wagon swaps, and it seems that if the trans computer, engine computer are not synced with whatever differential ratio you have, you're going to end up going into limp mode by the time you get into, before you get into fourth gear. or third gear or something like that. It ends up once the speeds don't match up, it shuts it limp modes you. So to put the E55 diff in this car, there are provisions to put it in this subframe, but you have to press bushings in and stuff like that. So I think the easier way would be just to swap the whole subframe. I don't know why swapping a subframe worries me more than swapping an engine, but this wagons have self-leveling rear, which E55 wagons also did, so it should all work. But I need to get both cars up in the air, or at least get under that car and look. But the subframe should swap. At that point, is it worth keeping the SLS, the self-leveling, or do I swap to the normal E55 sedan suspension? I think all the wagons had self-leveling. I think it's kind of nice to have. Is that compatible with a sedan E55 subframe? I'm not really sure yet. The drive shafts are the same length. They look the same as far as the girthiness, but the E55 has 4-bolt flanges on both the trans side and the diff side. This car has 3-bolt flanges on both the trans side and diff side. They look like they could separate, and maybe I can make a hybrid, but I don't know. Or I wonder, could I take the 3-bolt flange off of this drive shaft, put it on that drive shaft? I imagine the output shaft is probably beefier on that car, and there's a reason for the 4-bolt shaft, or 4-bolt flange, so I'm not too confident that that'll work. I'm just thinking, can I do a hybrid drive shaft, keep this rear diff? Maybe they could reprogram the trans control module with this car's ratios, and I could use the 307 diff for at least for a while, or if the subframe thing doesn't quite work out, but that's all still up in the air. So next step though, move a couple cars out just in case things go wrong and I lose something so I don't damage anything, and then we'll get the hoist out and see if we can yank this thing out. Making good time. It's barely afternoon, so. All right, so here goes nothing. We're all hooked up. Got the load leveler on. A little worried that the added height of the leveler will make this too not tall enough. I think I'm going to shorten that chain if I can. Can I? I don't know, let me look into that, and then we'll get moving. All right, pretty successful. It was about 2 hours from when I got here. It's out, it's on the stand. The trans is off and on a dolly under the workbench for future use. There's a lot of rodent debris in this engine, but really the only thing, I mean, it's 160,000 mile M112, so there's nothing wrong with it other than some oil leaks, but I need to get the power steering, the tandem pump off, since that runs the power steering and the self-leveling, assuming I'm going to keep the self-leveling on the car. And yeah, then I just need to search for a V8 later 0102 wiring harness and ECU and throttle body for the M113 to go in. So yeah, good. The only thing that threw me off, I left a ground strap connected to the transmission, so that's what was holding us up in the beginning, why it was not moving forward. So that eventually broke, and that's when everything let go and came out. So successful step 2 on the engine swap. Hopefully we'll be back soon to start working on putting it in. Definitely need help for that. It was hard to get this out by myself. I'm sure I will be feeling that tomorrow morning. And need to figure out the best way as far as getting in. And I need to maybe do 2 chains on the load leveler so I can get a little bit more articulation. And that way I could go in at a more extreme angle when I'm putting the trans in, I think, because I'd like to just put the V8 with the transmission in together. We'll get a few things out of the way more than I left. The washer tank was kind of in the way. I want to swap the E55 steering rack into this car while everything's out, since it's so accessible. Probably replace some steering lines and whatnot. Everything on the E55 is fairly fresh, so I might just take a lot of parts off that, because that car was, despite cosmetically being pretty beat up, mechanically it was super well maintained. But yeah, if anybody needs a V6 or something, let me know. We have the other E320 wagons outside. It's a silver car that I originally thought I would do the swap to that one because it's a 2000, and from an electronic standpoint, it would be plug and play. But one, it's a 4MATIC, which complicates things unless I swap all that out. And two, cosmetically, it's a lot more beat up than this car. This car is pretty nice, considering it sat parked in my friend's driveway for 4 years under a cover with one of the windows partway down. So passenger seat was kind of moldy and pretty disgusting when I bought the car, which I think I posted a video a year ago or so whenever I got it. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll be back soon. I'm hoping to go to a junkyard tomorrow and see if I can get that harness. And I've got valve cover gaskets, crank sensor, some other consumables to put on the E55 engine while it's out. It makes sense to do that stuff. And then we'll round up some help and get the engine bay, do some cleaning while this is all apart, and then we'll get some help. And maybe before the year is over, which we're midway into December, we'll have that back in, mechanically at least. And then from an electronic standpoint, there'll be some programming and stuff to do to the ECU, which I'll have to send out. And then, yeah, I'm sure by the spring, this thing will be back on the road. So one way or the other. So thanks again for watching. Have a good holiday season if I'm not back before that. Bye-bye. Just a little addendum to the video. Went out to pick and pull in American Canyon, about 30 miles away from me. Never been to that one before. It was a very nice pick and pull. They have had the only V8 2001 or later W210 within a 50-mile radius. And I got the engine harness, which I need for the older engine. And I got throttle body, which I need. And I got the ECU. It was a 2001 430. So I grabbed everything. ECU, transcomputer, and I think that's like the stability control. And I sent an email to Mercedes Swap Shop to see what they need to program the V8 ECU with e55 software and have it match my E320 so everything will work, which is over there. So that'll make life easier. That's great. Okay, one more addendum before we close this one out. This is the transmission computer from the E320. There's a seal at the transmission side where the wiring harness plugs in, and when that seal goes bad, this is pretty amazing. Transmission oil will wick up the harness into the engine bay up to the top corner where the ECU is. And you can see there's like transmission oil. I've sprayed some contact cleaner into the harness, but there's transmission oil like dripping out of this thing, which is pretty incredible that it will flow like against gravity up into the engine or the trans computer. I don't know if I'm going to be using this or the V8 one or what at this point. Transmission seemed to work fine. And I'm going to clean this up and let it drain, and I'll see what the Mercedes Swap people say. So that's the actual end for this video. Thanks again for watching, and have a good holiday season, and we'll probably see you back in 2026.